Okay, I think we'll just start. So we're about to have noon, so we'll start at 12 sharp here with our first panel discussion today here. And I would like to welcome you very much to this panel on citizen engagement in the energy transition, community energy concepts in Central and Eastern Europe. And yes, the next 60 minutes we have time to discuss experiences from research projects, from projects that the DBU is funding currently on the topic of citizen engagement in energy transition and focusing on community or citizen energy here. And my name is Gesa Geisler. I will be moderating this panel here. I'm professor at the Technische University in Berlin here, and together with my team, also including Roland Leschi here, who's taking the pictures. We have been preparing this panel, and also with colleagues from the DBU, Volker Wachendörfer and Cornelia Südbeer and Alexander Wittner and others. And we have a research project that we are working on at TU Berlin, kind of looking at opportunities but also challenges in setting up and organizing community energy projects in countries of Central and Eastern Europe. And with me today are four great panelists, which I will be introducing you in a bit. And just to start off on this topic here, I think we heard climate, that we have to fight climate change and therefore also increase renewable energy. The share of renewable energies is nothing we have to debate anymore in this context here. But the question is, how do we reach that? And local acceptance is one question and one issue in that. And community energy or engagement of the community of citizens in renewable energy projects is seen as one possible option of supporting also acceptance of renewable energy development. And so there we see a clear linkage to the topic here that we'll be discussing today. And just there's a lot of, how did this work? There's a lot of different, it worked earlier. We'll see. Yeah, now it's working, sorry. So when we talk about community energy and about engagement of citizens, now it's on the screen. I think we can't see it, I'm sorry. Then we have a lot of different definitions of what community energy could mean, and we have these different variations of definitions, but I think what is important and what is a common feature is that it's about engaged citizens joining, often to invest in the energy sector, who have a commitment to local ownership of those projects, that it's often decentralized, and that the local benefit is in the focus also of such projects. And very important as well that democratic governance structures and community engagement are in the focus of these projects, and those can look differently. So it could be a multi-family apartment building with jointly developed solar installations, or going beyond the one building in a community, so also involving other schools or other private and public actors, for example, jointly developing some kind of renewable energy generation or storage facilities or sharing. In this sector, the DBU is, I'm sorry, this is not working. Well, no. It has a bit of delay. So the DBU is supporting a number of projects in their international funding schemes on community energy, and you can see on the slide on the screens the range of different projects that are currently ongoing in very different countries, very different country contexts here. And while we cannot go into details of all of these projects, I'm very happy to have 4 panelists here representing some of these projects funded by the DBU, and they will be sharing their experience and their findings from the projects here in the discussion today. And so I'm very happy to have Katharina Habersbrunner here with me today on the panel. She's board member of the German NGO Bündnis Bürgerenergie since 2019, and since 2012 works for the non-profit network Women in Europe for a Common Future, and with that is focusing on gender equality and gender justice in implementing projects all over the world. Mrs. Habersbrunner is involved with the 2 organizations that she's been part of in already 3 of the DBU-funded projects here, so with experience from the projects in Hungary, Czech Republic, and also Albania here, so a wide range of experience. And I'm happy to introduce Pranvera Selimi. Pranvera is junior advisor for the GIZ in Kosovo since this year, and previously she was research fellow at the Wuppertal Institute and was holder of a DBU scholarship in which she was working on prosumerism in Kosovo, and so is bringing into this perspective here. Then I'm happy to have Michael Krug on the panel. Michael Krug is researcher at the Technische University in Munich, and previously was at the Freie Universität here in Berlin, coordinating several Horizon 2020 research projects on the topic also of community energy, and currently he's working or leading a DBU-funded project that is engaging in Latvia together with the Heinrich-Böll-Stiftung in Schleswig-Holstein. And finally, I would like to introduce Agim Selami. He is executive director and founder of the ZIP Institute in North Macedonia, in Skopje, and has been president of the Macedonian Energy Forum for several years, and will be it's very busy because this will be next week in Skopje, so has to leave quickly afterwards again. And he's engaged in a DBU-funded project in Skopje supporting public participation of marginalized communities in renewable energy communities. So thank you very much for being here today. And the idea is now that we will start with one question and statements from all of the panelists in this discussion, and then we will also have microphones and we'll open the discussion also to the audience. So if you have questions or comments in this panel discussion, feel free to raise them afterwards. Okay, so the first question that I would like to address here or to hear about is from your experience in the projects that you've been working on, but also your experience besides that. So what are the major benefits of community energy in this country context that you're working in, and where are also main obstacles or challenges that you see here today? And I would hand over to first.
Yeah, thank you very much, Gesa. Thank you very much for having me here. So I'm very happy. I have been working on energy communities since more than 15 years, and I'm deeply convinced that we have a lot of solutions, and it's also the idea of today and tomorrow at the Woche of Umwelt to present solutions of citizen energy. I am working in Germany on citizen energy at Bündnis Bürgerenergie, which is an umbrella organization bundling all the challenges, advantages of citizen energy. And I'm also involved in projects in the Czech Republic, in Hungary, and also in Albania. And so the idea, well, overall, the advantages of energy community is really the high acceptance and the participation of people. It's a very big advantage, but it's also a kind of system change, because we have got used to it that so we get electricity out of the plug, not thinking about it, but now we have the system change not only from the fossils to renewable, but also from a centralized energy system to a decentralized energy system. And here it's also that citizen energy and citizen energy communities, they have for example, people can participate in energy communities. They plan, they fund, they run energy projects with photovoltaic and wind, and that's very important because it was also mentioned by our Bundespräsident that we see many people, they are just astonished talking about global warming, and it's so important that people have the opportunity to take part, to be a part of an energy community, for example. Another advantage is the local value, to create local value. And well, we have a big challenge for our energy transition. It's very important that we organize the energy transition in a just way, that we know that our energy transition, the mobility transition, the digital transition, we will have winners and we might have also losers. So that's the assumption what we have, and our idea of citizen energy is for the energy transition to have as much winners as possible, that people can participate and people can, for example, produce their own electricity on the roof of a big multi-family house or building. Even they do not own an apartment, they are tenants. So here we have concepts in Germany, or prosumer concepts. That's very important. And it's a kind of democratic process. That it's because we have, I guess we have good concepts, we have also efficient concepts. So we also experience that sometimes politicians, they are a bit afraid because it might be too basic democratic and it might take longer to come to decisions. But overall, what we see in our 25-year experience now in Germany and in Denmark and Netherlands, so the kind of front runners of citizen energy, that we have really good concepts. So we are able to plan, to develop big energy projects with wind and solar, to run the projects, to fund it, so to invite people to fund, and that's also an advantage of energy communities, that people can invest maybe 50 euro or they can invest maybe 10,000 euro, and that's the idea of energy cooperatives. So independently how much shares you have, you only have one vote. So that's democracy, not who has the highest investment, has the most decision-making power, for example. So there are many advantages for a just energy transition overall, and maybe a last advantage of energy cooperatives is that they have, regarding the statute, it's very important to be economically successful, but also to consider social and environmental aspects. And that might be a blueprint for other sectors to have sustainable business concepts. So that are advantages. Should I continue now with obstacles? Already?
Can go.
Yeah.
Okay, should I continue with the slide, or just to make it simple?
Just to with the advantages.
Yes. For Kosovo, so I'm going to talk about prosumerism more than citizen energy, because citizen energy is almost non-existent. We still don't have the legal framework for it, and it's still not a practice in Kosovo. Prosumerism started lately, and for Kosovo is very, very straightforward. First of all, 90% of our energy comes from two coal plants, outdated coal plants from the 60s and the 70s, which of course for the climate is very bad for the emissions, but for local emission is even worse, because in Kosovo we have one of the worst air quality in Europe, but also sometimes in the winter, also in the world. It's something you can see. My apartment is in the 8th floor, and I can see the pollution every day, and you can even feel it. So for us, it's not a question if we want to have energy transition. It's something that everyone knows. No one is against it. It's just that it's really difficult, but because it comes from such a big volume, 90% to get into, I don't know, maybe at least first start with shutting off one of the coal plants and then the others. So citizen energy or prosumerism just straightforwardly will affect in decreasing the usage of coal plants. But also not only that, we have very centralized energy system. Again, it's the same thing. If one of the coal plants has issues, we have still in 2024 power outages, or if there's a crisis in the world or whatever, the electricity prices go up, we get affected immediately because we are so dependent from the outer forces. Because in Kosovo, there's also this trend that our population almost doubles in summer. We have a lot of diaspora. So even if you think that in winter we have an increased demand for energy, that's also in summer. So we're always so dependent on these two coal plants, and whatever happens, then the citizens get affected immediately with the prices, but also just with the demand. That's why citizen energy or prosumerism is really good, because at least we would have some ownership, and that's also a good feeling for people, because the energy comes from just one company and we feel like it's a monopoly and we feel like everything is decided by them. So at least if the citizens would have some ownership in the energy, that would be something that would incentivize also them then continuing with maybe even the energy communities in the future. So these would be the benefits. I would go definitely first of all with the air pollution, and then also the other that I mentioned, which is just the democratizing of the energy system. So that's it from my side. I don't know if I said whatever is in the, but I know it by heart, so yes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lisa, for the invitation and for the discussion here. Speaking for Latvia, many things have been already mentioned, many benefits. Perhaps for the Baltic countries, and particularly Latvia, the situation is that so far Latvia and also the other Baltic countries have been highly dependent on energy imports, mainly from Russia. And they managed already to transform their energy system and to get higher share of independence. But anyway, the electricity system is still connected to the Russian system, and Russia is an important function for frequency stabilization for the Baltic countries. And therefore, renewable energy and energy communities have a special positive function in that sense for the Baltic countries especially, I would say. Strengthen energy independence, strengthen resilience of the energy system, as you have mentioned already. Decentralized cellular energy systems are more resilient than centralized big ones. And I think for the Baltic countries, this is one of the main benefits. Another one, energy vulnerability. Gesa mentioned that I'm working for the Heinrich Böll Foundation together with Latvian partners in this project, in the project on energy communities in Latvia. But as she also mentioned, I'm working at Technische University of Munich, where I'm dealing with energy vulnerability and energy poverty issues, and there I try to find this link between energy communities and their benefits to reduce energy poverty or to mitigate energy poverty by reducing energy costs also for vulnerable households and for low-income households. I think this is for all the Eastern European countries a very important benefit. And social acceptance. Renewables, interestingly, in Latvia have a bad reputation. This is related to the fact that there was a feed-in tariff system already implemented in 1995, one of the first countries after Germany who had a feed-in tariff. But there was a much of misuse, much of corruption, and this initiated a great distrust in renewable energies. And only slowly this is now starting to change. Yeah, but so far renewable energy had a rather bad reputation in Latvia. I wouldn't say for the other two countries, but Latvia specifically. So this for the main benefits.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Gesa. Thank you, Roland, for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here, and so happy to see lots of interest for people to follow what we are sharing in relation to our projects that are being implemented in our respective countries. As it was already mentioned, we are doing a project on energy communities in North Macedonia, but we are combining it with a climate assembly on air pollution. The advantages of energy citizenship, the first and foremost, would be the fact that citizens are given a place in the negotiations table where energy policies are being discussed, and this is quite important for countries like ours with modest democracy, because usually especially the energy system is quite centralized. There are many monopolies operating in the energy sector, and energy communities and energy cooperatives are the cure to this monopoly which has been running our energy systems for more than 30 years. What we see, as I said, as a main advantage is precisely enabling lay citizens to be included in shaping the energy outlook of our societies. In North Macedonia, with the recent amendments of the law on cooperatives, energy cooperatives are now recognized as a legal entity, so citizens that are interested can establish their own energy cooperative. This is a good thing, but the other bitter fact is that so far we haven't had any officially registered energy cooperative in the country, mainly because the laws that regulate energy need to be amended so that they include also the energy cooperatives as legal entities. On the other side, the main thing that should be addressed with energy communities or energy citizenship is the inclusion of more than 24% of our population in the energy transition, because 24% of the population is energy poor in our country, and this mainly affects women. In our country, women are those that bear the main responsibilities in the home. So in our focus groups with women from marginalized communities, we've seen that they struggle in their everyday housework. They are not able to switch on two appliances, electric appliances at the same time, are not able to heat their houses. They heat only one room during the winter, which undoubtedly affects the overall quality of life in our country. This is for the beginning, but we can discuss about this later again.
Yeah, thank you very much for this first insights. And you focus on the advantages now, but there, as you already mentioned, also obstacles to getting community energy initiatives, or this idea of community energy implemented in practice. And we've seen in the past that the European Union and the European Commission have adopted directives, or this concept of community energy has been pushed by directives at the European level. So what would you say are the main obstacles now for the North Macedonian context in pushing this concept or implementing this idea of community energy in practice?
Yes, from the legal perspective, as I said, we have done these amendments, and now energy cooperatives are recognized as a form of organization for citizens that want to establish their own energy cooperatives. But there are, of course, many obstacles. First, we need, as I said, to amend the laws that regulate, the main laws that regulate our energy system. This is the law on energy, this is the law on energy efficiency, where the energy cooperatives would be recognized as legal forms. Then we have very low level of awareness, especially among the citizens, about what energy cooperatives are, energy communities are, what they bring to them as advantages, as benefits, and the role of civil society organizations like ours should be precisely in this direction, where we would organize large awareness campaigns for citizens to be introduced to this concept. And then I'm sure, because with the citizens that we have been working actively, those that heard for the first time about the concept of energy cooperatives, they were very much interested to find out more how they can actually establish their own energy cooperative, because the benefits are obvious and the advantages are obvious. We just need to inform citizens about the process, and then also build their capacities, how to run an energy cooperative, how the decision making is being done. Funding would also be another major issue. Right now, it's much easier for companies to get loans, to get funding for building photovoltaic systems, which is not the case with lay citizens. So we need to work on the awareness raising both on the side of citizens, but also on the side of other stakeholders, and especially financial companies, so that they consider lay citizens as an important stakeholder in the just energy transition.
Thank you very much. If we think about the Latvian context again, and perhaps with a focus on a rural focus there in that project, are there other challenges that are probably going beyond what Agim mentioned now from the North Macedonian context, or is it very similar?
I would say it's generally similar. A key problem, of course, is the affordability of the investments. Yeah, the low income and the relatively low savings households have to invest in energy communities or in energy cooperatives. So there we need some mechanisms, some instruments how to overcome this barrier. And startup financing, for example, this has been mentioned already. I think this is also refers to all of our cases. And I cannot see the citation, but lack of targeted support schemes in general. Yeah, so far at the moment there is no support scheme for renewables anyway. As I mentioned, there was a feed-in tariff which had very bad practice and which had caused a bad reputation of renewables. And only for households there's a net metering system which is changed now to a net accounting system. And this should also be now applicable for energy communities. You know, the government has now transposed the directive regarding renewable energy communities and also citizen energy communities, and also collective self-consumption in individual buildings. There is a law which contains all these definitions, but how to transpose, how to implement this, how to adapt this to reality and in practice, this is at the moment the problem. There's a draft regulation issued by the government and on energy sharing, and this is what has to be done now to give this life in practice and to practice this regulatory framework. And then I think things may go on if there will be the financial support, and it's envisaged to establish financial support. It's not clear how, whether this will be investment support, grants, or other possibilities, but anyway, the government plans to establish some kind of support.
Thank you very much. And Vera, from the experience in Kosovo, so we heard now that the regulations are important, but also then the implementation of the regulations needs more substantial contributions. Is there anything else that you would say from a Kosovo, or the context from Kosovo, that is or might be challenging currently in getting this concept on the ground working?
For Kosovo, I would say that one of the main challenges is the low price of electricity, which is like a two-sided sword, because at one side you want lower prices especially for the vulnerable citizens, and on the other hand, if you invest in solar panels and the price is low, the return in investments gets longer, and then people are reluctant to invest because it requires a high investment in the beginning, and also the return of investment goes for many years. But we had this discussion last week at a gathering with some stakeholders, and they kept saying return on investments is high. And then for me, maybe in Kosovo, this should be something that the privileged people do, but at least those who can will do it, even if they do it a little bit also for the goodwill. even if the return on investment is high, they use so much energy that at the end of the day they get something out of it, and at the same time the electricity grid gets a little bit less pressure from all the demand of energy. So maybe in Kosovo we should look at that way. It's not something maybe that the poorer people should do, but at least the prices remain low for them, and at the same time the people who can invest could do it. The legal framework is an issue in Kosovo for energy communities, because at this time prosumers can only be those who get the electricity from the solar panels that are in their house, so they have to be connected. There was this case that was mentioned from someone who wanted to invest. They were using the rooftop of the neighbor, but they couldn't be connected as a prosumer because it has to be attached to your rooftop. So this is the first thing that stops you from becoming, from doing even something like citizen energy or just starting a cooperative. All the other issues that were mentioned from the other speakers, are also relevant for Kosovo, but this would be something maybe different for Kosovo that I just mentioned.
Thank you. Yes. Mrs. Hammersbrunner, now from the wealth of experience in Germany and these other three countries that you're looking at, is there anything specific that you would say from the context of those projects or the German context that adds to this?
Maybe I start with Germany and then go ahead with Albania and Czech Republic and Hungary. So in Germany, in 5 minutes. So maybe in Germany, I think we have seen an organic development of energy communities, which is very positive, but we have also seen some ups and downs, and I think so the challenge is really that we need a strong political will for energy communities, and to see it as a crucial concept with a very serious contribution to have a successful and quick energy transition, because we know that we know our target, we have to shift to 100% renewables, we have to think about how we do it and how quick. So I think that's very important that here we have such challenge that we have to convince our policy and government, which is doing a good job. But just one example is that we need to plan and to develop a wind farm and to get the allowance, for example, it takes 7 years. And 22, when we saw the invasion of Russia in Ukraine, we saw in 3 months the confirmation of a lot of LNG terminals. I think it's a difficult discussion, but maybe we would like also to have the speed for citizen energy, for example, like for the LNG terminals, and I think that's a challenge. For Albania, for Czech Republic and Hungary, so it's completely different for the countries. Many challenges you have mentioned. In Albania, we have a very strong industry of hydro energy, of big hydro energy power plants, which always also impact, for example, biodiversity, and I think it's a kind of conflict of interest for the government also to push other renewables, but we see a good framework for energy communities. But also for these 3 countries, it's, for example, capacity building and awareness raising, because people do not have the information and the knowledge to say, I can have an active contribution, I can become a member of an energy community, I could invest €10 and this could have an impact. So that's very far away. I think that's very important for the projects we see here, for example. So that's a very big challenge. And the funding. The funding that we see, what is a bit the case in Germany, is that energy communities, we are a niche, so we are becoming better, but it's a lot of people having access to education, having access to funding, they can invest in energy communities. But we do not see many people facing with energy poverty, so they do not have the time, they do not have the energy to deal with energy communities, and I think that's very important also for all countries to have funding mechanisms, for example, to have start-up concepts to fund the projects, because in the long run it will be cheap, it will be affordable, but for the next years we need good concepts.
Thank you very much. I would like to also open the floor a bit to questions probably. So if you have questions, then just raise your hand and we will have have a microphone, otherwise I will continue with some questions from my side here, but I would like to open that also to the audience. Yes, thank you. Perhaps you can briefly say who you are and from which context you come.
Yeah, I'm Lennart Buchs. I'm from Fridays for Future here in Germany, and I'm actively following the developments in German wind and solar legislation. There's the European RED 3, which is European guides to shorten the planning time for renewable energy projects, and now the nation states are to implement them in national law. So this can be one building block to push, but what are your thoughts on that? Do you know about it? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I don't know who would like to address that question.
Yeah, so it's a RED 3 Renewable Energy Directive, so which pushes a decentralized energy transition for solar and wind. And what we see, for example, now in the solar package 1 is that bureaucracy will be reduced. So I don't know a number, so for example, of the years, but I think that's a very important success of the solar package for solar projects. For wind, it's also a target of the government, and I think they are working on it. That's very important. And also from the Renewable Energy Directive, for example, it's a concept of energy sharing. It's a concept for energy communities that you are, for example, an energy community with members, you produce solar energy on the roofs, and you could share and sell and store the energy via the public grid. So that would be a big step forward for energy communities. It's not yet implemented, so Germany missed the deadline 21. Now we have a new directive, the Electricity Market Directive, and the Ministry of Economy and Climate, they promised us to work on a draft now in June. And I think that would be really great. So that would be a big step forward, because it would mean that if you have simultaneous production and consumption, that you have cheaper prices, so you have dynamic tariffs, for example, and it would directly incentivize the members of energy communities. And not only, for example, if you invest in an energy community to get your dividends, so that it could mean a regional energy tariff, which would be great. So I think we are becoming better, but it's not enough what we are doing. So we have to be much quicker, and we have to acknowledge, we demand and we recommend and we want that to acknowledge the concept of citizen energy as a serious part and contribution to the energy transition. Of course, we need everybody, so we need, of course, big investors, but we should really use the local potential, what we have in all the countries in Europe, and to produce the energy where we need it. Of course, the planning needs to be socially sound, ecologically adapted, but we know how to do it. But we need, for example, also more staff in the authorities. So it's a big issue that some counties in Germany, they would like to do much more wind farms, but they don't have the staff and they don't have the money. So I think and of course the point of people working in the sector, it's a big issue that we need much more people doing all the technical planning and funding challenges.
Thank you. There's another question, yes?
Hi, should I start maybe? Thank you for your presentation, it was very interesting. I'm Deborah, I'm a DBU fellow from the MOE project. I work mostly with stakeholder engagement in climate governance. So actually my question, when I hear the term community, what comes to my mind is maybe the word empowerment. And when I talk about community empowerment, there are a lot of, it's a very wide scope. It's like education, training, public participation, access to information, and also international cooperation, of course. So from your perspective, and maybe this is for the other panelists, like from the communities that you represent, how empowerment do you believe the communities are to take on these initiatives and to also accept this as a concept as well, so, from your perspective and from what you've worked on?
Yeah, I think a very, very important and relevant question. So, who would like to go first? Andy?
Yes, the situation is not bright right now because, as I said, there is a lot of lack of information, lack of knowledge about what the energy communities in general, but also energy cooperatives specifically mean, and this is much more emphasized in countries where the energy systems are quite monopolized. So this is an area where we as civil society organizations should step in to inform citizens about the benefits that emanate from these types of undertakings. I think that the situation is not good, but the perspective and the potential for impact is huge. There are many civil society organizations in North Macedonia working precisely on this, informing the public and securing funding on behalf of these people that are energy poor. But it shouldn't be done on ad hoc basis, but rather we should have a more systematic approach so that we leave nobody behind in being first of all informed and acquainted with the concept of community energy, but then also to go a step further by including them in concrete energy cooperatives.
Okay, just a quick remark. I think you're talking about the community in general, not the energy community. So yeah, I think it's a lot about framing. You have to frame it differently in different countries. We keep saying, yeah, but in Germany they do it like that, but it's completely different. In Germany, this has been going for 25, 30 years, and I think the priorities in Germany are quite different from Kosovo, Albania, I think, and all of the other countries, developing countries, I would say. You have to frame it differently in Kosovo. Like in Kosovo, you can say, yeah, if you invest in solar panels, you will also it would be good for climate change and blah blah. We don't have that luxury right now because, as I said, we have issues with just getting the electricity, and also we have local pollution issues. In Kosovo, what is working is if you tell them that it's financially feasible. If you tell them that you won't have energy cuts anymore, or this or that. So you just have to know how to frame it, and it's good if you also put the image of climate change protection, the nature protection, all of these. But also you have to know where to pick, how to pick people's brains and how to kind of incentivize them to be part of citizen energy. Because in Kosovo, for example, last year the applications for becoming prosumers has been as much as it has been for the last 10 years combined. This is because there was this supportive scheme from the European Union, and they supported 20 to 40%, I guess. And the moment that for example, you get some financial aid, and people were actually willing to do it. So yeah, I think for the community acceptance, it's also about framing, and you have to know what the priorities of different people in different communities are.
I think that's very important to have this specific local context being considered. Yes.
There are 3 points. The first, the price. I think this is the main driver. If you have reduced electricity costs, things go by themselves. You could see it in the Russian crisis, now with the Russian war in Ukraine, how electricity prices went up, and the government offered some investment subsidies for solar panels for individual households, and there was a boom in Latvia. Absolutely boom. The installations were higher within 1 year 20 times compared to 21 or 30. It was really a boom and very successful. So this is a key driver, I would say. Then the municipality has a key role here in this field, especially in the Central European countries, I would say, as an empowerer, facilitator of these processes. As also benefiting from lower prices. And the third point, good practices. We need some pilots, some good practice projects where everybody can see and look at the benefits. But we need them. Yeah? And in Latvia there are 2, 3 perhaps small projects financed by the European Union, but we need more from them, especially in the rural regions. And if we have these good practices, this shows people also showcase and how things work, and people can go there, discuss with those initiators and how to implement it in their own community. So I think these are 3 important issues.
Mm-hmm. And when you think of your project that you're now implementing with the Bundesstiftung and the Latvian partners, how exactly are you planning to support the development, and what is your specific contribution that you want to achieve with this project? How will you address those challenges that were raised as well?
In this project, we try to approach 3 different levels. The policy level, the macro level, where we initiate some policy dialogue. In 2 weeks or in 3 weeks, we have a policy dialogue between Schleswig-Holstein and Latvia, policy makers and politicians, but also other stakeholders in this field, about the transposition of the directive and implementation of energy sharing, about digitalization. I think this is an issue where we can learn from the Baltic countries. So this is the macro level. Then we have the meso level, the medium level, where we, mainly the Latvian partners, cooperate with the regional planning regions. So they have special awareness raising activities, networking, training for the regions. And then we have on the micro level as one pilot community where we try to develop one pilot case. There's an investor who has already installed PV, very large on an agricultural facility, and he is interested to include people, the community, and to establish an energy community out of this. But so far the regulatory framework didn't allow it.
Okay, thank you. I think there was one more question from the audience that I saw. Is there? Do we have a microphone?
Yeah, another question or info. You mentioned good practices. There's a European Federation of Renewable Energy Cooperatives called DBU. It was mentioned in one slide. Maybe they have already good practices and systematic approaches. I don't know if you know it.
Yes, I think all of the panelists are also aware of this network, and I think it's a very important aspect also that you're mentioning that, because I think the networking and the sharing of experiences and having such platforms or networks that support that, I think is a very important aspect. Yes, I think there's one more question.
Marta. I was sort of just wondering about your experience, whether there is any, and what you think of the role of political engagement in adopting those systems, because I think you mentioned LNGs, and I was recently in Rügen, where I think to me it was pretty clear, like they had entire camps there trying to have some kind of control over the sort of situation, what's going to be built in there in Rügen. Some collectives, including from Berlin, and the Gelände was quite in the very forefront of it. But the background of the whole thing there was political engagement, and there were some actual citizen organizations from Rügen demanding that, like, this model doesn't work for us, we want another model, right? And I wonder, what is the role of this kind of political engagement from citizens in sort of bringing about change and acceptance, or maybe adherence to such projects?
yes, who would like to go first on?
I try. So it's a super relevant and important question. I think. So I guess very important is that we have alternatives. So that's and to be very convinced that we. Well, I think it was very difficult 2 years ago, and we had to act. That's understandable, but we have really with renewables, we have such great technologies, and they are affordable. They become cheaper. I think that's very important just to state. The second is what is, for example, it's the concept of self-efficacy, that you can have an impact. So even if you just invest €100 in an energy community and many people do the same, you can have an impact, and maybe we do need, and we become quicker and faster with the energy transition. And so you're talking about political engagement. So we see a lot of actors in energy communities being engaged for a just and quick energy transition, because it's, of course, we know it's very clear that we have to do it, but we have to do it very quick, and we have the concepts, but I think that's a big challenge, that it's perceived as small-scale solutions, and it's a big discussion. It's also a big discussion between academic institutions. So some they strive for centralized concepts, and we strive for decentralized, to start with decentralized concepts and to maximize all the potential what we have, and then to reduce, for example, the demand for power lines. But you realize I can't give you a clear answer on political empowerment, but I think we have. The good news is we have the technologies, we have rescue, but we need the framing, we need storytelling, and we have to address the people. And that's, I think, it's a challenge, because that's, even if you have a lot of answers, so it's not possible, for example, to address the majority of the citizenship, and to showcase that we have good concepts. And I think we have to focus a lot on good communication and target group oriented communication, and sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, unfortunately, I think we're already out of time for this panel discussion here. So I would have loved to continue the discussion, and I think there were also more questions, but I would suggest that probably we continue that just outside of this lovely tent. So the panelists will be still available here, and so perhaps we can use the garden of Schloss Bellevue to continue the discussion. And I would have had a last question, but we don't have time for that, because I think the big question is also what could we, from a German perspective, now learn from all of these projects that are ongoing in the different countries. And you all have German actors, German partners in the projects, so jointly working on those questions. So the question I think that is also important is that what can we draw from that for the German context, because we also have a lot of challenges ahead here in this German, in the German question. So, but again, also this, I think we have to continue discussing outside of this lovely tent then finally. So thank you very much for being here and coming to Berlin to the Woche der Umwelt for your discussion here. And if there's interest in the audience to follow the projects or generally this topic of community energy and the projects that DBU is funding here, then feel free to use the QR codes to get to the website at DBU, or to contact Roland or me on this topic. And I think it became clear that there is this overarching concept, but we have to face the specific context conditions in the different countries in order to be successful to support the spread of the concept and to implement projects actually on the ground. And this is important. So thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the day.